I thought I'd start off our visit with a bang because why the hell not? It's 2023. We're not going to be around for that much longer anyway. So I thought I'd read you a tweet that got deleted. We all know the beef between A.J. Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I'm just going to read it because it's what A.J. sent to Juju because apparently Juju's been making TikToks, shockingly, about A.J. Brown. It starts out on Twitter where A.J. Brown tags at Team Juju and says, you really need to find you somebody else to play with. Don't let that ring get you beat the F up because I'm not with all the dumb shit. I'm not going to speak on it no more. But then he decided to speak on it a little bit more when he sent a message directly to Juju that said, I don't play them kids games. If you want to see me, I'm with it. You better go to Cabo and enjoy your ring and stop effing with me. Leave me off your TikTok shit. Your thoughts, Danny?
I love it. I am firmly on Team A.J. Brown. I'm on Team Brown for sure.
Yeah.
Team Juju, it is like I don't know if you guys noticed this, the day after the Super Bowl, whenever this initially started and Juju thought it was hilarious to throw the jokes out there at the Eagles and A.J. Brown, a lot of NFL players chimed in and they were on Team Brown as well.
Yeah.
Like the TikTok stuff does get old and it does feel like somebody feels like they're way more important than they really are, especially as it pertains to the Chiefs' success. He had a good year, but like this is not the reason they won. So it's best just to pipe down. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of corny, but I'm totally on A.J. Brown's side. And I don't think Juju wants any part of that.
No. Look, real life, we know when it comes down to squaring up, I'm taking A.J. Brown 10 out of 10 times. I will say, if Juju would have cooked James Bradberry the whole game, like I'm talking racked up like 150, 2 touchdowns, made like a one-handed catch over him or something, I would not have as big of a problem with it as the biggest play you made was a holding call at the end that ended up pretty much deciding the game. So it wasn't like Juju Smith-Schuster was out there balling.
Or if Bradberry had been complaining about the call and saying we got robbed, Bradberry handled it the exact way he should have. He's like, I grabbed his jersey. It was my fault. It's all on me. Like he handled it with class. That's why I thought the shots were completely below the belt.
Agreed. For sure. And James Bradberry stood there in that locker room and answered every question from every reporter. I think it tells you what to. I'll go to war with the James Bradberry every day over a Juju Smith-Schuster.
It's a smart play in the long run because he knows everybody wants a teammate like that.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly
everybody wants a teammate.
That's
like
exactly right. I mean, to be honest with you, the only difference between Juju Smith-Schuster and Jackson Mahomes is that one of them actually steps on the field, doesn't stay on the sidelines, even though neither one of them really should, in my opinion. But Danny, let's go ahead and shift it. I want to ask you about your alma mater. Made some waves. We talked about it this week. Talking about not happy with the business model, kind of the ACC's looking, when you look at how much Florida State makes them, and Clemson's in the same boat to what they're getting. Could we see Florida State in the SEC in the future? And Danny Kanell, big SEC guy, what?
I don't know what the future holds, but I can guarantee you one thing. You will never hear me chanting SEC. You'll never hear that.
We'll save the tape. We'll save the tape.
You will never see me rooting. Like if Florida State's in the SEC, I'm supposed to root for the Gators. That would never happen. Or any other team in the SEC. I will only, just the way it's always been, I will only root for Florida State because that's all you're supposed to do. Rooting for your conferences is for losers. The teams, and those are always the people that chant the loudest. It's like the South Carolinas, the Kentuckys, Tennessee recently. Like it's all the teams that have no success. They all want to jump on there and start claiming the titles of the conference because they don't have one. So you will never see that. In all seriousness. Go ahead.
No, Well, I was going to ask you, what do you think, though, when you do look at that revenue model? I get what Michael Alfred's saying. Like, I 100% get it. If I'm a branch manager at a corporation and I'm looking at where I'm at and the way this money's getting divvied out compared to another branch manager, you know, you got Scranton and then somebody else over there that's making more money. Like, to me, that is a problem, though. You can't be $30 million in the hole per year when you look at Florida and talking about your arch rival, but just in general in the NIL race now. You can't.
Florida State won't be able to keep up with Kentucky. I mean, because it's a spending race. We all see what happens. And, you know, the SEC, ever since the SEC network was launched, they've had deeper pockets. The Big Ten network has had deeper pockets. And I'm going back 10 years and look at the results. That's why they have separated themselves. Like at the peak anti-SEC Danny Kanell, which was Like, I don't even like saying that, but like at its
Which was
peak,
yesterday?
No.
I'm just kidding.
I had a stronger case because I did think the conference was overrated. And there were teams that were getting gifts and they get more credit for wins. And some of that still does happen. But you cannot deny that over the last 10 years, the conference has elevated itself to a place where all of a sudden that gap, because, they get 1 or 2 years where they get 4 or 5 players, more players drafted in the NFL, and they started claiming that. But then the gap starts to separate, and it's because of the investment they've made in the recruiting budgets, in the facilities, in the coaching staffs, the salaries. Like, they've spent a lot of money to get to where they are now, and it's only going to increase, and that disparity is only to get larger. So as soon as I saw the SEC deal come out, the Big Ten network, or the Big Ten TV deal, not the SEC network, but like the big TV deals that they're starting to sign with multiple networks, and you start seeing the money that you're coming in, I'm like, I don't know how Florida State survives. It is not sustainable. And that is exactly the quote that really resonated with me with Michael Alford when he was meeting with the Board of Trustees. He said, something has to change. And so basically, he's presenting a problem, and he's basically putting the ball back in Jim Phillips' court, and the commissioner of the ACC, and saying, all right, we have a problem. We need some solutions. And some of those solutions are, a revenue model where it's not an equal revenue share, which I would tend to agree with. Like, why does Florida State get the same payout that Boston College does? Like what value does Boston College bring to the ACC compared to FSU? Same thing with Syracuse. You go down a list of schools, and they're nowhere close to what Florida State brings in. So why does Florida State have to sit there in the same rut, getting the same as they are, and it doesn't make any sense? So he's putting that ball back in Jim Phillips' court and saying, all right, now it's up to you to keep us happy. And Clemson and Florida State are tied at the hip. And we saw Clemson's athletic director come right out. It's a really smart move because they're the best football brands in the conference. So I think the future is very uncertain. I would put it like 50-50 that the timeline of this is like, if you said eventually and you said 10 years, I'd say Florida State, there's probably an 80% chance they're in the SEC, in 10 years. But like, how much damage is done if we have to wait 10 years? Because that disparity is gonna continue to grow.
YouTube, we want to let you know that this amazing sports analysis, this journey into life's deepest questions and thoughts, is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use our code CRANE, C-R-A-I-N, no, not spelled like the bird, because new customers can place $5 on any pregame moneyline bet and get $150 in bonus bets if your team wins. That's only at DraftKings Sportsbook with our code CRANE, C-R-A-I-N. Minimum age eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. Cone, I'm not moving my fingers. I have not moved my hands since this started. Your thoughts on DraftKings Sportsbook summed up in one word.
I love it.
Oh, you shattered him.
I love it. It's the best.
Flaming Dragon,
number one.
Think?
Look, I'm a dragon. All right. And the same thing I know is a couple of things.
If there's anything you know, it's a couple things.
All right. 1, dragons are sweet. 2, I'll burn you up. And 3, the hottest sportsbook out there, DraftKings.
That is true. What was the first thing you said?
Get your finger out of my face.
Blaine said, I know one thing.
About a couple things.
About a couple things. And it's 3 things.
And one of those
How about that?
Formula One this Sunday. Max Verstappen going off at -150.
Take him. Take him.
Maybe get on DraftKings.
If you ever picked an orange tree off an apple tree and made lemonade, then you take Max Verstappen.
That's exactly right. And use that promo code CRAIN for that great offer.
The other interesting angle to this, and I'm curious to know what you guys think of this. If Jim Phillips, who inherited this TV deal, he's a great commissioner, and he's done a phenomenal job trying to deal with the cards he's been dealt, because he inherited this TV deal, which is till 2036, which is insane. It was really a bad TV deal. If you're Jim Phillips, don't you think you go to ESPN and you say, look, you own us. You have a vested interest in the success of the ACC, just like you do with the SEC. If you want us to survive, you've got to figure out something, whether it's a new deal, but in today's environment, with the economy going the way it is, the business the way it is, like, they have zero incentive to do that. And they're not, it's not going to be out of goodwill. But somehow you've got to convince ESPN to potentially come back to the table and create value. We always hear Sankey talk about, hey, I like to create value. But how do you create some value so that Florida State, Clemson have more interest? And aside from a new TV deal or a split revenue model that's completely different, they're not going to be around for long because, as Michael Alford said, things cannot stay the same.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he explains it by let them fight. In any sport, like
all
hockey.
sports.
Let them fight for 2 minutes. Makes sense.
Well, ESPN's getting an extreme discount on the 3 million eyeballs that watch Florida State football every week, right now as it stands, where they'd have to pay a lot more if you join the SEC, which they may have to at some point. But Danny, the NCAA Rules Committee has issued some proposals to shorten the length of college football games. And it has everything to do, Danny, with player safety, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Not about running more commercials. Don't you dare say that.
Yeah.
So I guess in question form, it would be, one, do the powers that be in college football think we're stupid and we don't notice the play here? Or two, do they not care if we're stupid or not because they know that they can just push this through?
Come on, Cone. You didn't see the numbers, the statistics they put out there that 7 or 8
You'll say
7 or 8 plays a game, and if
Come
you
on,
do
man.
the
Like a
math,
Flex Seal commercial. But wait, there's more. If you call
Let's
right
just-
now,
Blaine said it best.
We'll
Let's-
give you one last timeout. in the
Let's
second
just
half.
simulate the whole game. No
Yeah.
one will ever get hurt.
like the NBA.
right?
No one will ever get hurt.
So I actually like the rule proposals, and it does appear they're going to pass. And as soon as 23, like this upcoming season, we could see games with running clocks after first downs, just like the NFL. So like I've always been a proponent of why is it so different college and the NFL rules? And I didn't like it as a college player who went and was drafted by the Giants. It takes some time getting used to. There's little nuances. And man, when you start getting that play clock and the ball and there's not stopping, it happens fast. Like it's coming at you. And it was an adjustment. And it is for every rookie that goes to the league. Like, why not just sync it up? Why not just have it be the same in college? But I do think and the same thing with like the other, like the very common sense, like the whole untimed down at the end of the quarter, just carry it over, start the next quarter.
But see, like Danny, I don't think that's the one. Like that.
No.
I'm fine with the clock running after a first down like it does in the NFL.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with that. The clock running after an incomplete pass when the ball's spotted is absolute buffoonery.
Even that, though,
Right.
even that, if that were the status quo in college football and always had been, none of us would be saying anything. Danny, what I'm talking about is the slippery slope of continuing to chip away at the product while jamming in more advertisements. I'm going to call it the potato chip bag theory, okay? You get a bag of potato chips and every year you get fewer and fewer potato chips, right? The bag is less than half empty now. You're going to get less and less football in the same 3-hour time frame, and you're going to get more and more advertisements, which it's already hard for me to watch an entirety of a college football game because the ads are just so prevalent throughout. Do you disagree with me there?
No, I think you're right. I cannot stand at how many commercial breaks there are. I mean, if you ask me, like my preference, and this is how a lot of times I'll watch an NFL just because Sundays are kind of an off day, is I'll record the games and I'll just speed through them. And like you can cut off. And like the way the NFL, I think the NFL Plus now, they have the games that are condensed, and you can watch a whole game in an hour without all the stoppages that
Red
take
Zone
place. It's
too.
pretty wild.
Yeah.
Red Zone
But I
is
do think,
amazing.
I think it is I think this is the TV networks that want to condense the 4-hour games into at least 3.5, where it is more manageable. But if they were really concerned about that, like, why don't they do double boxes during extra points? Like, there's a lot of things they could do that are outside the box that could get more mainstream, that could speed up the action as far as having to wait. Like other sports are doing this. Like you don't want a total break in the action.
Yeah.
And if you went to a double box during extra points, like you can still see the action, so you don't have to feel like, oh, what, I gotta wait 3 minutes. You might want to watch it. So I think there's other ways they could look at to try for solutions. And thank goodness they came to their senses, because there were 4 rule proposals put forward and 3 of them look like they're going to pass. Because if they would have gone down the slippery slope and said, we're going to keep the clock running as soon as the ball is set after incomplete passes, then that's a significant drastic change that I don't think is necessary, and we don't want to go down that road.
That's what Josh
But
Page
it all
said would
comes
happen
back to,
in
like,
past 3.
we are still we're still so worried. It's a violent sport. The sooner we come to that realization and say, you know what, it's a dangerous sport, and stop this facade that we can make it safe. I mean, guys get hurt playing 7-on-7. Myles Garrett was hurt in the Pro Bowl playing 7-on-7. Injuries are part of sports, whether it's football, soccer, basketball, whether you're in pads or not. Why do we keep trying to make sports safe when they're not supposed to? They have inherent risk.
Yeah.
We're soft. Society, we're turning soft.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the potato, bag of potatoes.
That was good. That's a really good theory.
Let's run with that.
But the thing about it, they're going to keep buying the bag of potatoes.
Let's run with that.
Yeah.
That should be your thing.
I want a bag of potato chips next time.
You actually had one earlier today. I watched you. Dana, I got a question for you. You kind of see it's a lot more nowadays in sports, and Title IX is coming down in the next couple months, and you're a father of 3 girls. So I kind of want to get your thoughts as we see men slowly infringe on women's sports, and where do you kind of stand in this entire thing?
I mean, this to me is one of those head scratchers where you're like, how did we get to this point where we have biological males competing against biological females? And it blows my mind that the NCAA, who has always been a proud proponent of Title IX and equality in sports and women's rights and having, putting women's sports on a pedestal, and as a father of 3 daughters, I've loved it. Like, how could they let what transpired in the swimming championships with Leah Thomas, how could they let that happen and think it was a good thing? It's just beyond me. And there's some things where you look at and you're just like, it completely boggles my mind. Like, where is the common sense? Yeah. And I do think we all, like, as a society, we want to be sensitive to everybody's rights. Like, how come no one has suggested that a trans athlete, maybe we need our own category? Like,
that's what I've been saying that every day for a year and a half.
Why has that not been put forward by anybody? Because that seems fair. Like, if Leah Thomas does not feel comfortable competing against biological males and says she's a biological woman, why don't we have either that category or a category for trans athletes?
Yeah.
Like, that are all together and they can compete together. Because I don't ever want to eliminate somebody's ability to compete. So why hasn't that been brought forward? It makes zero sense to me why no one's brought that forward. But I mean, I just saw there was a school in Vermont that is a high school that took its team off the court because the other team had a biological male and it was an all-girls team. And they said, no, it's not fair. And I'll tell you, if my daughters were in the same situation, I'd probably do the same thing, because
I would too.
Somebody has to start taking a stand and protecting biological females' rights to compete in a fair playing field, or else eventually you're going to see their opportunities taken away, just like you saw Riley Gaines' national championship taken away.
That's exactly right. I'm going to get off my lawn on it. Danny, I think there's a couple reasons. This is Jake Crane speaking. One, if we fix the problem, there's no longer a problem, and that's going to piss a lot of people off because they want to complain about something. And then the second thing is, if you do make a trans division, then you will have a group that will say, well, that's not treating trans people like male or female, even though they believe there's more than 2 genders, which makes no sense at all. Yep. But that's Jake Crane speaking. Yep. Danny Kanell, catch him on Sirius, CBS Sports HQ. I don't know why I said CBS Sports HQ like that. That was very Dr. Evilish of me. And the Cover 3 podcast, where rumor has it, Danny, Bud Elliott has never blinked during a video podcast.
The only reason he blinks is look at all his screens, all his analytics up
there. Well, it's when the computer resets, of course. It's when it's, hit the button, David. Is the soundboard on right now?
You want shutdown?
Yeah. There you go. Great job. Danny, always appreciate you coming on, my friend. Tell everybody what you have coming down the pipe.
Headed to the Combine, actually interviewing the top 5 quarterbacks coming up. So checking out for that on CBS Sports HQ. Excited about that. Don't buy in to the guys that get hyped up because they look good in shorts and a t-shirt.
Say Will Levis. Say Will Levis. Say Will Levis. Say it, Danny. I know you want to say it because we believe it too. We appreciate it, my friend. YouTube. If you want to survive any attack by Flaming Dragon, you must subscribe. Turn that notification button on and hit that like button, because you don't want to get burned, do you?